Good day, people of the YouTubes. This is Magic the Gathering Online, and it's what I'm going to be playing in a few moments. I've mostly used this to play games of Penny Dreadful against my brother, and a few random Commander games. And it was a while back that I realised that essentially this is an extremely cheap way of building really expensive paper decks and getting some games in. Now, while I am always happy to play paper Magic over webcam or paper Magic in person, it is expensive to do so, especially if you're playing in Standard or if you're playing any of the Eternal main formats like Modern, etc. And most of the time what I end up doing is playing the far more casual format of Commander, which is 100 card singleton with one legendary creature as the head of the deck. So it's in a specialized zone, you can always play it as if it was in your hand, and if it dies, you can even replay it for an increasing cost. I'll get into the actual Commander rules as we get into the game. This is a way to do this on a really cheap budget. So the deck you see in front of me is actually 5 ticks, so $5 worth of tickets on Magic Online. And if you have a deck is 5 tickets or less, you can actually rent it from somewhere like Card Hoarder. There are probably some other places, but that's where I personally do it for most of mine. And effectively, you can loan a deck that is 5 ticket value or lower for free, and then just return it once you're done. And if you want to play it again sometime, you can basically do this. You can only have 5 tickets worth of cards at once, so obviously you do have to cycle round, or you can just decide, you know what, I want to pay $5. Full disclosure, you will have to pay $5 for the upgraded account, I believe, because I don't think you can actually... Oh, I forget what it actually gives you. I think you need to do this to save decks and get some binders and things. There might be some other restrictions on it. I think upgrading the account's only $5 in the main, so for $5, effectively, you can play Magic the Gathering Online and play Commander games. And honestly, the decks you can make, as I've mentioned, are reasonably competitive. That is what I'm hoping to kind of achieve with this series. So, the deck I have got here is a rebuild of one of my favourite commanders and deck strategies. My main deck actually isn't that much more expensive. I will go over a couple of the changes that I've got there as we go. But essentially, this is built around Sasaya, Orochi, Ascendant. So Sasaya, Orochi, Ascendant has the ability of revealing your hand, and if you have 7 or more lands in your hand, it reverts to its other form, which is Sasaya's Essence, which is upside down here and obviously not easy to be read, but there we go, that's the full description. Now, as a creature, it is a 2/3 with no abilities, fundamentally. It's not going to win the game on that basis, but if we do flip it, basically we go into what the namesake here, the big dumb green stuff. Whenever a land is tapped for mana, I add additional mana equal to the number of lands I control with the same name of it. As you can see, I have mostly got forests, so if I have 7 forests in play, each of my forests taps for 7 mana, and this escalates rather rapidly. Therefore, the deck is all about getting 7 lands into our hand via any way possible, and then finding ways of actually abusing the pure amount of mana that we can generate each turn. So, we have various effects which put lands into our hand. Horizon Spellbomb, we have Dried Greenseeker, which basically looks at the top card, does a bit of card filtering for us. Evolution Charm can put a land into our hand, but also has a couple of other small effects as well. Depending on how things go. We have things like Syrian Ranger, we have Mulch, which can put multiple lands into our hand in one go, Winding Way, which can do multiple lands into our hand in one go if we're lucky. Chromatic Compass gets us a land every turn. Sprouting Vines is one of our best ones because it has Storm, and so it means on our opponent's turn, if our opponent plays 3 spells, we cast Sprouting Vines, we get 4 lands into our hand. This is the sort of deck where we will have to strategically play Sasaya at the right moment to win, but you know there are ways of doing that. We also have Nylea's Intervention, which can find X lands cards for a hand. So if we can get ourselves up to effectively 9 mana, then we can just put 7 lands directly into our hand, ignoring everything else. Hopefully less than that required, but that is our backup plan if we do that. Other than that, we are playing a reasonable amount of ramp. So the general plan with this deck is to try not to play lands unless we need to. Hence why we got various untap effects with the Planeswalkers. Garruk effectively gives us pseudo ramp by allowing us to have 2 additional mana each turn. Nissa Vital Force also has an untap effect. Nissa Shakes the World basically makes our forests more valuable, which again is effectively ramp in another colour without us needing to put more lands into play. Nissa Worldwaker also gives us ability to untap multiple lands at once, which is also very good when we have all of these lands generating ridiculous amounts of mana, because again, ridiculous amounts of mana. It is difficult to lose the game with that, you would think. So what are our main payoffs? The main payoff here is the Helix Pinnacle, which has Shroud, meaning it can't be targeted by anybody's spell or abilities. And basically, if we get 100 counters onto there, we win the game. So if you consider the fact that if we have 7 lands in play, we're generating 49 mana, that's nearly half. Play a land next turn, generates 64 mana, because 8 times 8. That means we win the game on our upkeep. So, and also, as I say, has Shroud, I can do that in potentially 2 turns, just outright win the game on the spot there. We have Staff of Domination, which admittingly is a little tricky, but if we have a lot of mana, we can potentially just draw our way into cards, we can potentially just gain a bunch of life to get out of trouble, we can basically tap down our opponent's board every turn to try and stay alive. Plenty of ways that can help us out in there as well. We also have Centaur Glade, so we can just make a bunch of free tokens if we need to. We have Planar Bridge, which allows us to find our best permanent card each turn if we want to. We have Verderoth the Ancient, which is Kicker X, so we can put any amounts into that and basically create an army of 1/1 saplings to try and win the game with. Hydra Broodmaster becomes monstrous and makes XX Hydra tokens of the same strength as the monstrosity value. We have Patron. I think Patron is just another untapper, actually. Yeah, another untapper. Our main win condition, though, really, from this, is Genesis. So, Genesis Wave reveals the top X cards of our library and put any number of permanent cards with mana value X or less onto the battlefields from among them. Any cards that weren't revealed, that weren't put this way, are put into our graveyard. So, in my main deck, I have what I consider a couple of safety valves on this card, i.e. cards that, when they go to the graveyard, will shuffle everything back in. In my main deck, this is hit mostly by Ulamog the Infinite Gaia, which does have the effect of, when it's put into graveyard from anywhere, shuffled into your opponent's library. However, that costs 1.5 tickets, so we're not going to put it in our budget version. Instead, we have Gaia's Blessing, which does the same thing. It's a sorcery. When it's put into a graveyard from a library, it is shuffled. If we shuffle graveyard, is shuffled into a library. And in theory, that should be how Genesis Wave works. If we draw it, what we'll probably end up doing is finding some other ways to do it. Maybe doing Eternal Witness shenanigans or whatever else. The safety valves are not as definite with this, but obviously we'll know whether or not we have Gaia's Blessing in hand when we cast Genesis Wave. And hopefully from that we'll be able to dump our entire deck onto the battlefield at once and find some way to win. Other cards we have that'll be useful for this. Hurricanes, or just a good burn spell here. Kills all creatures with flying and each player, so as long as we've got more life than our opponents to that point, we'll win the game there. Other than that, there's a few good utility cards here. Sandworm Convergence, since we got a bunch of mana, this prevents things with flying from attack us. Also makes 5/5 tokens at the end of turn. We have Vigor, which I quite like. It also has the effect of shuffling into the library as well, so it's a secondary safety valve in case of Gaia's Blessing. But if we were to play it, it basically makes our creatures immune to damage and makes them bigger as this happens. Can be very difficult to deal with. We have Quarter Calling, which is just basically find a creature, but we can also pay it for 1 to get a Dryad Arbor, which is a forest land as well. Other than that, yeah, I think that's most of the main win conditions. There's a few utility cards that just basically draw us stuff. We obviously have the Branch of Besiju for finding lands, but also alternate to a creature as well. Put things back on the library. We have a few ways of recurring cards as well, if we need to, with Revive and Regrowth and an Eternal Witness. Interestingly, we can actually go Genesis Wave, and as long as we hit an Eternal Witness, we get to Genesis Wave again, because all the lands that come into play off of Genesis Wave will be untapped and tap for a ridiculous amount of mana. So that is the deck, that is the aim. Let's go and see if we can actually play a game with it. Okay, we have our game. So, I set this up as a casual thing with just a quick mention. I'm doing 5 ticks. Good luck. Have fun. So, 5 ticks budget deck, and we'll see what we're actually up against here. So, we have General Tazri, which is a party commander, which should be quite fun. Oh, no, this is the ally version. Okay, let's have a quick look at our hand here before we decide. We do have some ramp here. It's a little awkward, but I'm going to keep it. We have Tetsuko, who is a small creatures can't be blocked, and we have a Kaalia. So Kaalia could potentially be quite powerful here. Just when it attacks, gets an angel, demon, or dragon from the field onto the battlefield. So, okay. Let's see how this goes. So user mimic starts with a Blood Crypt, tapped, and that is all. Okay, turn order is not as I expected. Oh, that's just end step calculations things. There should be a button that allows me to just turn off the auto yields, but hey. So we will play this, we will tap, and we will say go. And we will yield through the turns. Okay, so Jagada, Tree Speaker, and he's an Elf Druid. So this has the ability to level up and power up elves on the battlefield, and it's not showing me the further level up effects. I should be waiting for me to work that out, but hey, that's fine. So that's basically a ramp creature at that point. Jank Infestation goes blue, tap, and we really speak of, we just pass through our end step. Okay, so turn 2. So has access to all the colours on turn 2, which is always a nice thing, and plays a treasure map. Okay, our turn. So we will play a forest, and we will play a Sylvan Ranger for turn 2. This puts a basic land card from our hand, from our library into our hand, and helps us towards our general plan of getting 7 in hand here. At this stage, we're really just trying to just get enough ramp that we can live with things and then possibly build things up later. We also have one of the most powerful cards in the deck already in hand, which is the Genesis Wave. So we'll see how the rest of this goes in and around this, really. We also do have the ability to go and revive Kadama's Reach or Sylvan Ranger, so this would allow us to basically pseudo-ramp and keep the same number of lands in hand. With this deck, it's extremely important for us to keep some going and allow us to build up a little bit here. Just have a quick check of what's anything in the chat, so not really. We'll keep that mostly minimized, but we'll keep a rough eye on it every now and then. So, has the ability to level up Jagada, and that puts the add any colour things, and I can't remember what it gets for 5. It'd be nice if I could actually look at the full card here. When you right click on things, it normally shows you everything. But anyway, that levels up the Jagada Tree Speaker. We don't have any responses to that, and I should be yielding. Yeah, why is it not giving me the info on that? Either way. So, commander played by the blue player. So, unblockable commander. This could be ninja style shenanigans potentially. It could be walls. It could be something weird. We'll find out. We'll look forward to it. Okay, Fellbar Stone, so continuing to ramp. It's important for Kaalia to get a little bit of ramp going here, because obviously if we can't get the Kaalia attacks, he's going to have to hardcast all of his dragons, demons, and angels. Okay, so we draw a forest, and we are just going to play out a Kadama's Reach. So that gets forest and gets forest. We will put that one onto the battlefield tapped under our control, and the other one goes to our hand, meaning we now have 3 in hand. Right, combat. I'm in the mood to start swinging at things, so let's start and attack User Maniac for 1. There is no point in leaving damage on the table, although admittingly we are opening ourselves up to now take some damage from other people. However, Jagada's probably going to ramp, and we can't block Tetsuko anyway, so no sense from that basis of not attacking where we can. Okay, we're also getting to the point now where we could just start Genesis Waving for 2, which would be a little silly. I think what we're most likely going to be doing is going Nissa, and then start to use Nissa ramp to possibly Genesis Wave us into something else. However, once I play Nissa, I am going to be hit hard by somebody. So, goes for an additional level up here. And I can never remember whether it was F2, F6, or F8. It used to be, but I know they changed it a while back and I don't want to really skip through turns accidentally. So we'll use the method there, even though there are probably better ways. Anyway, Dank Infestation then. Plays a Curiosity, so that will allow a free card basically every time that attacks. So that is the engine pretty much going on with there, and I expect I'm going to get attacked for 1 here. I'm not. It's going to be User Maniac. So this is the fear of Kaalia. Kaalia can do some really broken and terrifying things. I'm playing a silly green ramp deck, so I don't know that I'm necessarily identified here. And General Tazri isn't doing a lot other than leveling up a Tree Speaker at the moment. So maybe this is just a little bit of fear going on here. Either way, it's only 1 damage. It's not the end of the world, and I'm sure threat assessment will change the moment I play this Nissa. Okay, follows up with a Weather's Brawl to find an additional land. Oak Palace. So I think the play for us here is we're going to use Nissa, make a 3/3, and then we're going to try and get back our Kadama's Reach. If Nissa survives a turn cycle, which it looks like it might do, assuming there's no creatures played from here, then our best bet is probably going to be to do that and then go for the big Genesis wave. We could potentially even hold the revive and do it afterwards. So maybe we just play Nissa and go for it at that point. Rakdos Signet. So it looks like more ramp going on from user Nemiak at the moment. Or user Namek, actually, as that should be. And Kaalia is out. So Kaalia flies as well. So this is going to make the Nissa play a little worse, but I think it might still be what we want to do here. Interestingly, we can Hurricane for 2. Right, let's play a forest and let's be the threat. Nissa who shakes the world. We will then go for that uptick and we will hold station, I think. As our big plan here is to try and Genesis Wave for a lot next turn. And we're risking a land as it is to do this. So let's see. The thing is, Kaalia could easily just come across and do that. I think attacking our opponent means that it has to attack me on both ends. I'm actually not 100% sure on the rulings with this. If Kaalia attacks Nissa, does that work? Does he do the redirect? I have a feeling it might. I just don't know offhand that's certain that that's the case. So I'm hoping it works in my favor. Because if we keep Nissa alive next turn, what we basically have is 12 mana to cast this Genesis Wave, which means Genesis Wave X9, dump a number of lands onto the battlefield, and then hopefully, question mark, do something, profit. But at that point, I become the arch enemy, and I will die shortly afterwards, if the others have anything to say about it. Still, General Tazri, what was revealed out of that? A mirror entity. Okay, so Changeling Tribal. Oh, I wonder if this is actually Tribal rather than just allies. That'd be interesting. Alright, goes to cleanup and discards. Discards a Death Baron. Yeah, it's Tribal. Okay, I like Tribal decks. So basically, it wants everything to be the same creature type, and then all of the benefits stack on each other. So skeletons and zombies have +1/+1 and things. Imprisoned in the Moon. That is unfortunate. It is still ramp, I guess, but... Oh, wow. No, he's gone for Kaalia. Oh. That is going to prove to be a mistake if I process this Genesis Wave. I'm getting attacked, which I expected. So, not attacking Nissa, of course, which is equally good for me, because it means Nissa will stick around, and I can potentially get to 8 and just cast all of my land cards. Which, again, means I would never ever flip the commander, but I wouldn't need to. I'd have 40-ish mana from that point. So yeah, Kaalia currently just taps for colourless mana, which is not a nice way for the commander to be, in all truth. However, as stated, user has enough mana that they can probably cast Angels and Demons out of their hand if they wanted to. And of course, white does have access to enchantment removal. I don't know what of it they're running, if anything, but that is not the worst to me. Oh, this is a big creature. Don't know if I like this. Rootscar Demon. Okay, so this is a 6/6 flying demon that allows you to search for a card when it enters the battlefield. So, okay, big demon to worry about. Also, that is flying and also can get past Nissa. And we kind of like having double mana right now. Yeah, I don't have anything else I'm going to be doing at this point. I don't think we can actually just yield through this turn. So, could be searching up some way to remove the Imprison on Kaalia. Could be tutoring up something huge. Unfortunately, because it doesn't state a card type, we won't get to see what they've got. I'm sure it's not going to be good for us. It's going to be the best card in the deck for this situation, you'd think. Okay, so card found. Let's see what else they got. Oh, Helix Pinnacle is interesting. Alright, let's play land. Let's then tap out. Let's then untap one of the forests. Generate a ton of mana here. This are up to 7, so she will still stick around unless it's a combined attack. That means we'll have 14 mana available. Assuming this goes through. The only downside with Genesis Wave is we do have quite a few X spells which don't work with this, but any permanents we draw we can cast. Mostly we're just looking to basically dump 5 or 6 lands onto the battlefield with this, if we can. Effectively doubling our mana, even ignoring Nissa. And then we might even be able to Helix Pinnacle and go for a win that way. Not impossible. Alright, Genesis Wave X14. Oh, X11, rather. Yeah. Genesis Wave X11. Okay, so that gets Garrick Wildspeaker, No, we don't want the Genesis Hydra, unfortunately, and Free Forests. That was not great, in truth. I guess we'll play the 4/4 as well here. Obviously, there's no point in playing the Genesis Hydra because it come in as a 0/0. Each time it was kicked. Unfortunately, it wasn't kicked at all. We can then untap 2 lands. So I guess we might as well untap those. Revive, targeting Genesis Wave. So we have that again for next turn. And I guess we're just going to attack here with just those 2 into that. We want to keep up something as a threat, I suppose. Yeah, we want to keep Nissa alive here, so I think we are going to second main. Hurricane X7. And this clears off the Runescar Demon, which is an expensive bit of spot removal, but I think that was reasonable. And we shall say go. Okay, so we have a lot of mana next turn if that comes to it. So this is the other side of the deck. Obviously, the commander, we want to get 7 lands in hand, but we've actually drawn the other half of the strategy here, where we just show how powerful Genesis Wave is. Okay. So Mirror Entity on the battlefield. This has potential to do some combo-y stuff. So we did lose a few interesting spells with this, unfortunately. We lost, obviously, the Genesis Hydra, which we wouldn't have been able to cast. Winding Way is one of our ways of getting lands in hand. Sprouting Vines is one of our better ways for that as well. Praetor's Council, unfortunate, because that would have allowed us to get things back again. We cast Revive, we cast that. Sylvan Scrying just gets us a land. Mulch gets us some lands as well. Yeah, so if we get to untap next turn, we have 20 mana available for this Genesis Wave, which will be an X17. Actually, it's going to be even more than that because we can untap with Nissa, we can untap with Garrick. It's going to be quite big. We are susceptible to Wrath effects, although currently Usanamic is the only person who's going to be problematic for that one. And again, this is why we keep the. This is why we played the 4/4, even though we didn't get any multi-kicker value out of it. So adds 2 green. It's going to level up. Yep. So almost at the point of level 5 in Elves. No attacks. Okay. Yeah, this is where if we had a bit more of a budget, if we weren't 5 ticks, this is where things like Doubling Cube and effects that double our mana again would be especially useful. Nis is the cheapest of them, at least on MTGO that I could find that was reasonable. And obviously it also has the untap effect, which is also relevant. So yeah, we shall see. 5 mana. What does the table have to show us at this point? ... Okay, so we have an infect creature against us here. Okay. We might be getting infected out then. That can't be blocked. Got it. Infect is fun. Infect is fun. Oh dear. Unblockable infect more fun. Oh, in truth, I'm in no position to complain about infect. I'm about to put 17 permanents onto the battlefield potentially out of next turn. I am ahead right now. It's a case of whether I can stay ahead though. That's the problem. Lightning Greaves. Okay. That also provides Shroud, which means you can't be targeted by either player's effects. But it means that we're probably getting infected here. Yeah, I can... There. Okay, so... I imagine I'm getting hit. Yep, absolutely. So I take 1 damage and 1 poison. So once I have 10 poison, I will lose the game. So I am down to 9 life effectively from this. And of course, draws a card. So it's a slow ticking up with this deck at the moment. It's doing quite well. Yeah, I'm also one of these people. I know Infect gets complained about a lot in Commander circles, but I'm actually one of the players who's usually fine with it. Usually it's either to just outright win the game, or you're aware it's coming and you can take steps against it. In this case, I can't do anything about this. It is basically basically going to sit there and sort the game out for me. So, we know he tutored up for something last turn. That was before I did my turn of doom, of course. But User Maniac probably has the best card in his hand right now and is about to scry for something. So we'll see whether they have an effect for this. I mean, I haven't really spoken about this, but of course, if we do get to the -8, make all of our lands indestructible, and get all of our lands onto the battlefield at once, this is going to make Helix Pinnacle extremely strong. Alright, so 31 life, 1 poison, 2 commander damage from the unblockable commander. Let's see what can happen here. Vindicate. What's the target for Vindicate? Hold on, I completely didn't miss what the target was for that. What's the target for Vindicate? Oh, Opal Palace, and they've conceded. Oh, whoops. Okay, that is probably fair. Alright, main phase. Let's play a thing. Let's then play a Thematic Compass, because why not? So, during the end step, this will transform, which is why we're going to do it that way around. Meanwhile, we're going to tap a bunch of mana. We're going to untap one of these. We're going to untap a couple of these. Float a 21 mana Genesis Wave into this. And see what happens. Well, I think we're going to put everything into here except for what doesn't work. Hydra Broodmaster, Colony Gem, Crozen Tusker, Nylea, Sandworm Convergence. Not going to put the staff in. I don't want to put the staff in. Staff is going to lead me to do some broken shenanigans, so let's just play all of those. And I can claim my misclick. Colony Gem now returns 2 lands to our hand, so let's put that on the stack first. And then Eternal Witness will get us back Genesis Wave. Oh boy, this is what my deck loves to do, and I didn't think it would be quite this good at it, because I think that's all my effects that bring it back now used. So yeah, we will get our Genesis Wave back. Colony Gem will return 2 of our tapped lands back to hand. We will then go and cast ourselves a Helix Pinnacle. Put 1 counter into there, and I'm going to pass the turn. Declare attackers. There is almost no point in attacking at this stage, although maybe there is. No, I'm going to hold off. We're going to stay defensive here. We lose by attacking at this point. So Thematic Compass into this. So the Thematic Compass will flip and turn itself into a basically fixed Maze of Ith. So what that will allow us to do is basically prevent 1 creature from attacking us each turn. And also we get a 5/5 worm taking each turn. This is looking very much like a win at this point. Especially if I can make my lands indestructible as of next turn. So Nylea is a creature and does have the effect of, for 4 mana, I can pump a creature by 2/2. The Hydra Broodmaster can suddenly turn into a bunch of Hydra tokens. And the Crozen Tusker is just a 6/5, but of course we've trampled because of Nylea's effect. And we're just getting the land if we cycled it, which we're not going to do at this point. Alright, so elves you control now have +2 tap to add 2 mana. So that Jagad Tree Speaker has now powered up all elves. Interestingly, that is now an elf, so that can do that as well, which is fun. So almost at the point where we could actually cast our commander and just win that way. We need a way to get 1 more land into our hand, assuming we drew 1. But it's not impossible for us to do it here. Armillary Sphere into a thing could be a thing. Also, the Colony Gem does tap for 2 green. And of course we have our lovely little Dryad over here, who's just a 1/1 forest land. Oblation, targeting General Tazri to draw 2 cards to try and get out of trouble, I think. I mean, in all honesty, if I only have one opponent left, I can just swing completely out at Jank here. It's extremely unlikely that I lose from this position. What we need is one of those classic blue board wipes. Especially as I could technically Genesis Wave again for the rest of my deck if I really wanted to. However, at this point, it's probably worth us saving it just in case something does happen. At the very least, we have most of our lands in play now, so... or at least a good enough number of lands that we can just work with that. And of course, when we go Nissa, we actually get most of our lands back anyway, so... You control enchanted creature. Oh, that's a thing. Right. In that case, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap out, add double green, our Military Sphere at this point. Pay 2. Find a couple of lands. Put them into hand, and then we're going to activate the thing for this. Oh, I've got to click exactly here, so yeah, I'm one short. Alright, so I'll make it slightly bigger. So he gets a 13/13 Hydra Broodmaster, and I get to pay for that. Make it monstrous so he can't activate that effect. Although he doesn't have a way to make green as far as I can tell, but that's not impossible. His creature gets bigger, we get 6/6 Hydra tokens, which is more power. And then he gets control of my Broodmaster, which we can spy as a Varaska to make sure it can't attack us. Also, does the Hydra Broodmaster not have trample? It doesn't, actually. It just makes a bunch of more Hydra tokens. It doesn't have trample itself, so we can block that with anything. And I think given the amount of power that's on the battlefield right now, I think we can just send all the Hydras at Dank, and then we send the rest at FN, and hopefully have enough to just secure victory at that point. Cancel, we're going to just put the 1 mana into this, since we have it. Yeah, but if we have a way to just get 1 additional land into our hand from our draw, then we can cast our commander and just go straight for the win on Helix Pinnacle. Of course, I say straight for the win, I have to wait till my next upkeep, but... yeah, it might have been a different game had they not scooped, but they had enough ramp, and obviously I dealt with their 1 threat they had. They'd cheated up something. They could potentially have kept this game going on a bit longer, unfortunately, but alas, they felt it was done at that stage. I honestly, Genesis Wave is so good in this deck. If I hadn't had it, my hand would have been a lot worse. I'm going to concede now because I would have had to work around and try to catch my commander. But this is sort of showing what the deck can do and what it wants to do. There are ways to make it work better, and we might even review those after this game, but for the moment, yeah, it's doing what I need it to do. I mentioned before, if you're not the archenemy in Commander, you are doing something wrong. And this is definitely a deck that can become the archenemy at a moment's notice. At the beginning of combat. Alright, what's coming at us? Tetsuko, Icklor. I'm going to untap the commander, just because. I don't think there's a card they can draw that's going to matter, but I'd rather just make sure it happens. I also forgot I could have tapped that for a mana, actually, but it wouldn't have made a difference. I guess it would have made the Broodmaster very slightly bigger. Yep, no blocks, can't block it. Oh, what's the for? I actually do have a way of getting 7 lands next turn. Actually, I can just Yefamea Elder. So that should actually do it. Obviously, I still wouldn't have been able to do that until my step, but I have that as an option if I want to do that. It'd be quite nice for us to draw our Reliquary Tower here, actually, just to allow us to just hold the cards in hand. But if the worst comes to it, we can discard Genesis Wave at this point, I think. Okay, let's... Alright, let's do it, just for lols. Let's activate Yefamea Elder. So this puts 2 basic lands into our hand, and also then allows us to draw a card. So yes, we want forest, and we want forest. And then we will draw a card, which will probably be a forest, because that's mostly what I've got in this deck. Okay, good. Let's then cast Sasaya. Cast Sasaya, flip Sasaya, and go to combat. So now my land's tapped for a ridiculous amount of mana, which, if nothing else, is worth showing at that stage. But we're definitely going to do this via combat. Okay, so I'm then going to go... Oh, sorry, we're going to downtick Garrick. And we're going to go to combat. So if I send all of those at Dank, that should kill him, and I can send the rest at FN. All these cards are going to attack Dank. And that as well. And that should be good enough here. Because we also have a ton of mana to just cast for a bunch of Kaalia triggers if we want to. But yeah, Genesis Wave. Really broken card. Also, Nissa. Really broken card. And also, this entire deck costs less than 5/6. I think it's 4.5 when I looked up for this, just before I did this. Yeah, I'm not going to go messing around with this, but I did want to at least show how much money I actually had from this point. And that's fair. Well, GG. Honestly, I think User Maniac had the interesting deck. Dank was things there. We had chat with Dank, so we'll give him the submission for that one. But yeah, that is the game. So, pretty successful outing for our 5 ticks deck here. So, as you can tell though, this was heavily influenced by 2 cards really. Nissa, Who Shakes the World, and also the more mighty power of the Genesis Wave. Now, the deck does run a number of mana duplication effects, Gauntlet of Power, and Caged Sun being equivalents to Nissa, but honestly, Genesis Wave is the one-of-a-kind ultimate win con of the deck, and it's why I have, in my full budget version of this, a lot of safety valves to basically allow the deck to reshuffle itself back into the deck so you don't deck out. Because I've had instances where I've gone Genesis Wave for the entirety of the deck twice. Obviously not really getting a lot of benefit out of that secondary thing, but the deck could benefit from ways of finding the Genesis Wave. For example, even with the artifact stuff, you could go for, what is it? Not Fencer's Journal, Tamiya's Journal, possibly, which is the one that basically can sacrifice 3 clues to find a thing, especially as you do have a few clue synergy cards dotted about. There are also a couple of ways you could potentially search it out through other methods, I guess. But in truth, yeah, the deck is pretty good. There are some things that don't work. It does get clunky if you don't get the double mana doublers, and you can get in situations where you just don't feel that you can do anything because of the twin strategies. Often you're balancing the need to get 7 for Sasaya against the need to get some mana on the board so you can actually play the game. And it's a tricky balancing act. It's one of the reasons Mages of the Library's in here, because if that's in your opening hand, that solves your problem, basically. It wasn't shown here, but you also have Winding Way, Mulch, and Kaalia's Intervention to try and cheat that process a little bit, as well as Sprouting Vines in a couple of other ways. Hurricane, you saw it used as a sort of spot removal spell, but I've definitely used it to force a draw as well. It's useful for that way. Honestly, the deck is pretty fun when it works. It does have flaws, certainly, but I love the thing, and it's available effectively for free through Card Hoarder once you've paid, obviously, the 5 to get a extended account on Magic Online. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope that I've managed to edit it down so it's not completely boring, and if you'd like to see some more of this, I guess I'm open to doing it. So, until then.